reason why we've chosen both of them is that we think they're related. Tell me how they're related.
Well, they're both about sincerity in action, in the sense that when we do something good, we should be doing it only for the pleasure of God and for no other reason. Of course, there can be other reasons. One may do something and accomplish a number of things at the same time. But one should give such prominence to the idea of pleasing God that should make everything else fade by comparison. Finally, I want to make that clear by saying that we should have the sense that if it's not for the pleasure of God, this thing is not worth doing.
Okay, so let's look at the first hadith then, which speaks about God being self-sufficient. Tell me what it says.
Yeah, basically in a nutshell, God says, I'm self-sufficient and I do not accept any partners. So if anyone were to do anything to please support or supposed partners of mine, then I leave him to the partners, or to what I reject what he's doing and the partnership that he's claiming for me.
Mm-hmm. So you basically, you'll get your reward from your partner, whoever it is you've done the deed for.
Yes, and in fact, if you want your reward, then that's you should go claim it from the partners, the supposed partners that you have attributed to God. Mm-hmm. This reflects the Muslim idea of monotheism, that it is God and God alone. God does not have any relatives. God is unique. Everything else other than God are His creatures, and God is by Himself just simply the one and only true God.
Okay, and then the next hadith is a longer one, and it tells a story of various people who arrive on the Day of Judgment having performed certain deeds, and those deeds are rejected by God.
Yes, this is a very interesting hadith, and it's very moving to describe, just because it gives us such a graphic imagery of what will happen on the Day of Judgment.
And I guess because the individuals themselves are the sort of actions they do are ones that we uphold as very virtuous actions.
True, and one might fear that one could easily become one of these individuals. Mm-hmm. So basically, three persons will be made examples of on the Day of Judgment. According to this hadith, one will be a person who died as a martyr in the way of God, and two will be a person who was known to be a religious scholar and a reader of the Quran, and third will be a person who was known for his or her generosity, and these persons will be shown to have done these things, but without doing them for the pleasure of God.
So let's go through them then. The martyr who comes on the Day of Judgment. What does God say to this individual?
Well, the person will be brought, and God will be asking the person, okay, so I did all of these favors for you. What did you do in return? And he will say, well, God, I went forward in your path and struggled and died in your way. Meaning that he gave his very life, so there's nothing left to give. And I did that only for your pleasure. And God will reply, kazabt, which literally would mean you lie, but given the way in which this is used in the Arabic language seems to indicate here what you're saying is wrong, is incorrect. And the truth of the matter is that you did that, so that people will say you were such a brave man. Mm-hmm. And you got what you wanted, meaning that people did say that. Mm-hmm. And so this person will be dragged and thrown into the fire.
And then the religious scholar comes forward.
Yes, he, in response to God's question, what did you do, in response to all of these favors I performed or bestowed on you, he will say, well, I acquired the knowledge of your religion only for your sake, and then I taught it to people. And I recited the Quran, and God will say, well, you lie. You only did that so that people will say, what a learned person this guy was. And people said that, so you got what you wanted, and then he too will be thrown into that unfortunate place.
And who comes next?
The last is a generous person, a person who had much wealth and spent it in the way of God. And he too will say, well, I did all of this only for your pleasure. And God will say, well, that too is incorrect. In fact, you did it so that people will say, oh, what a generous person this was. And you got the fame you sought, so there's nothing left for you here but go with your tamarind.
Now, what is the meaning of this hadith then? Is it, an actual something that we can actually look forward to on the Day of Judgment, or is it a warning? More of a warning?
Well, it's a sort of a warning. It tells us about the types of individuals that we may encounter, and or we have the danger of becoming ourselves. And it warns us that we should not become like that, but we should always keep in the forefront of our minds that whatever good deeds we do, it should be done only for the pleasure of God and not for seeking name and fame. It's not for pleasing people. It's not for showing how great we are special. We are nothing special. We just try to serve God in the best way we can. And if
so how do we prevent ourselves from going in the way of thinking of what other people would think of us in performing certain good deeds?
Well, it is so easy to fall into that. That's a lesson that I picked up in the Jamaat Tabligh many years ago when I used to travel with that group, is that before you start any good deed, just check yourself and ask, am I doing this for the pleasure of God? While doing the deed itself, ask yourself again, because you could have forgotten and switched courses during the time.
So always check your intentions.
And then even after you've done it, then ask God to forgive you in case your intention was not quite right, and try to make amends for that and be prepared next time to have the right intention. But having said that, I want to make sure that we do not create an atmosphere of personal mistrust where a person becomes so apprehensive that one could actually become compulsive and obsessive about this. That could be one of the tricks of the devil as well, to get you to be so obsessed about one aspect of a thing that you neglect everything else. It is something to cultivate, to think about, but not to be obsessive about. The main reason for doing good deeds is to please God, and we should always keep that in the forefront of our minds and work towards making that a reality.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Welcome.